In this video, I'm going to go over how to use Ligolo to set up different listening agents or listeners on agents, so that you can actually perform file transfers, from internal hosts out to your Kali VM, and actually retrieve those files back to that internal host, as well as how to, establish reverse shell connections. And this is all done with listeners being added to the different agents within your pivoting solution here. So let me quickly just go over the environment. So this is what I have set up currently on my screen that I just had up. It was my Kali VM. So I have already established. Let me just go over. I'm not going to go over and exploit every single one of these things. Okay, this is demonstration on how to set up these listeners on various agents. So I'm not going to be going over that. I'm not going to be going over how to set up Ligolo either. I already have another video out that kind of showcased how to set up all of your tunneling and pivoting through these networks. Okay, so this one's just going to be how to do the file transfers and reverse shell connections if you ever need to do that as you're pivoting. I'm not going to be going over that again. If you need to, just check out the other video or find a different one online that suits you, and then circle back to this one to learn about the file transfers and whatnot. I already have a tunnel established, or I'm sorry, I already have a connection with from the agent to my proxy. Okay, so that's what this looks like here. So I got Ligolo tunnel. I'm not really tunneling into this internal network yet. I'm just connected. Okay, so what I'll do is a few steps to eventually get to this other interface, and that's what we're going to start doing stuff. And that's important to know. So you always have to start the tunnel before you start running or establishing these listeners. Otherwise, you'll set them up on the wrong interface, and as you start to try to connect, you won't be able to make those connections, because you'll have your tunnel, but where you set your port forwarding kind of solution up, it's on the wrong interface. Okay, so that's just the most important thing as we kind of progress through here is, get your session, set up the tunnel, then establish all the listeners that you need in your environment. But what we'll do is I'm going to go through and I'm going to first pivot through the host, this Ubuntu host. I'm going to bring over another agent and an MSF Venom payload that'll connect to a interpreter, multi-handler, and then I'll pivot again into DC1 and do the same things. Just bring over a couple files and then establish reverse shell connection, and then that'll wrap things up. Okay, so again, I'm connected here. So the first thing I need to do is establish my session, okay? And I only have one here because I'm only connected to one agent so far. So if I needed to, I could run my ifconfig, right? And I could start setting everything up. But again, I've already done that, and I'm not going over that in this video. But this is the network we're going to be traversing into. So the first thing I want to do is, like I said, is start the tunnel. So again, I've already cranked up got my interfaces set up, so I'm not doing any of that. So I'm easily able to start my tunnels, and then I can look to see if I have any listeners. Oop, not lists, but list. There we go. And I have none. So I have my session, I have my tunnel started. Now I am clear to just start creating the listeners. So the first listener I want to create, and it really doesn't matter what order you do these in, is I want to just create the tunnel listener. So as I progress my pivoting tunnel, I'm going to use this one. So listening address and 2, which is my Kali VM. And that one looks good. And now I'm going to do file transfers. So I'm going to do to me on 31337, and that's going to be coming back to this HTTP server here. And what I'm going to have is port on that internal network interface, listening on port 2000. Okay, so essentially, and I'll scroll up here, this IP address here, 10.10.8.9, is going to be listening on 2000, which is that internal interface in the first network there, the interface, network interface 1, and then that's going to forward traffic to my VM, and right now it's going to be doing it on 31337. I'm just going to use this for file transfers, okay, on that one. So that is the first thing I need to do, and let's go and see if my tunnel is good. And it's open, so it is good. I can RDP over there. Let me see, jump in there with this one. I'll just go clean here, move some stuff around. Okay, that's where we want it. Let me show this graphic real quick to just get us right up to where we're at. Okay, so we established this session and then we started the tunnel. So we essentially are here. Okay, we're at this internal interface, and we're able to access this 10.10.8.25 over RDP, and we're on here. So now we've already established listeners on this internal network here, right? This interface. So that's where we're going to be essentially sending all of our commands are going to go here and then get forwarded to our Kali VM and then come right back to DC2 from a file transfer perspective, okay? And then from the reverse shell, just, connecting back to the Kali VM. Okay, so let me just jump over here and pull this up. Okay, so we can see everything. Let me open PowerShell. That's taking forever. Okay, maybe I didn't click it. All right, so let's bring over this file. So it's going to be 10.10.8.9, right? And we set port 2000, and it's going to be this agent.exe file. And I'm going to just out it to right here. And that's fine, you just put it right here. Okay, so again, we set this listener up right. That's listening on the internal network 1 interface, and it's 10.10.8.9 on port 2000. So that's why we're directing this there, and it should get forwarded, and we should see a GET request occur here. So let's run that, and it just like magic, right? The agent.exe is getting pulled on over, and I can list this out and it should be there. Okay, so the next one I'm gonna bring, let me just close this down. Let me pop over to one of these that's open, and I should have a couple of reverse shells in here. Yep. All right, so let me just set that up again. Oh, cool, already set, nice. We'll bring this back up. But actually, I don't think we created a listener for this. So first I'll bring it over and then we'll set that up. So let's just switch some of these things up. And I didn't fat finger any of that, right? I don't think so. Okay, and now you can see that both the agent and that payload are over there. So let me shut this down. Let me hop over here. Okay, so this is what we need. So we need to set up a listener to catch this connection here. So of importance, we need the listening port. The listening port's going to be assigned to any, but it's going to be on that -- adder side. So the this 10.10.8.9, it's going to be on that side. And the other side that we need is this any on port 40,000, and that's going to be coming to us. So I can just copy this and jump back over and use my up key here, and I'm adding a listener. So yeah, I guess I didn't need to copy, just 40,000 is pretty easy to type. And then the other one was 1111, right? So that should be all you need to do. Hit enter, and again I can list those listeners out. File transfer, reverse shell, tunnel, got them all. Okay, so let me jump back over to MSF console here and pull this back up. Let me clean this, and we should get a reverse shell connection. Okay, so just like that, ran it, and you can see the reverse shell has been established. So that's from the internal coming outbound. Okay, so that worked great, cool. Now let's just keep on pivoting. So we brought an agent over. Let's connect the agent. So again, if this isn't something you know, I have another video on it. You can go check it out. And this is on 11601. Remember, that was the one we assigned for the tunnel. And ignore cert. And it should be connected. So pop back to the proxy. You can see that it's connected. So now we want to, again, join the session and make sure you're on the right one. So number 2 there is the session we want. And if I needed to, I could run ifconfig and get the interfaces down. But I've already established another interface for this, so I just need to go tunnel start, right? So we need to start the tunnel. And this one is just Ligolo double. And it's running. Great. So let me jump back to the graphic one last time. So here we are. We just connected, right? With that PowerShell session. And after that, we joined that session. And then we started that tunnel. So we are right here now. So we should be able to communicate with this domain controller 1 that's on .100. Now I'm in a spot where I can now start setting up listener agents, because I'm going to be setting them up on the correct interface to forward all my traffic back to my Kali VM through this tunnel. Okay, so let's just start setting up these listeners again. And this is really just, you kind of just up arrow it over. I'm going to go straight to set up the tunnel first. Got that. I'm going to set up just my file transfer one next, because I'm going to just keep this easy and change this to an 8. So 31338, and this one's going to be on 3. Hit enter. And then all I need to do really now is check, and I kind of already know what I set up earlier, but 40,001, and this next one should be 2. Trying to keep things simple, but I'm going to double check. So yeah, and this payload, just like the last one, right? So it's pointing at that interface IP address. And since I'm in that second pivot, it's going to be pointing towards 172.16.0.25. And I just established port 2222, I think that was 4 2s, on the agent. And then I have any on port 40,001 on the 2. So that's going to be coming back to catch. All right, so that should be set up. And I can hit enter. I can verify my listeners really quick. And I can see that, yep, here's all my session 2 listener, or agents and listeners. So my tunnel, my file transfers, and my reverse shell. So everything's set up there. Okay, so I'm just going to verify that my tunnel is good to go. And if it is, I should be able to reach that domain controller, so DC1, and yeah, everything's good. So I should be able to RDP over, yep, and I'm all set. So let's spin that up. And then really all I need to do now is set up a listener, hold on, or HTTP server. So perfect. And that's what we've got set up on the second interface, is 31338 for file transfers. So I'm going to grab the reverse shell that's in there, and let's bring this back up then. Move this a little bit, and it disappeared. And it came back. Okay. This is kind of annoying. One more time. Okay, cool. Let me clean this up and get some PowerShell going here. There we go. Okay, so we're bringing over a reverse shell. So we need that 172.16.0.25. So that's that internal network 2 interface that's assigned to that to DC2, right? And within our listener, we gave that a port of 3000. Oop. And I'm going to bring over reverse2.exe and I'll file that. And I'm just going to call it rev. Okay, and just like that, it happened. So you see it reached back, got it, and I can list out, and we can see that rev.exe is here. So now let's go over to the interpreter shell that's running, the multi-handler that's running here, ready to catch this interpreter payload. And just remember, it's all about pointing things at the right way, at the right IP addresses. So just like we pulled it from this file over with the .25, the payload is pointed at the 2.5 and it's pointed at the port that we want to forward the connection back to 40,001. Oh, and I didn't hit run, so let me hit run. And now let's just fire this off. And just like that, we've got our reverse shell. So that's through 2 pivots, right? And you just keep on going. And if it helps to create a graphic, go ahead, create a graphic. But that is how you can use Ligolo to perform file transfers from the internal network, reaching out to a host and pulling things into the internal, as well as catching reverse shells that originate from the internal networks that you're pivoting into. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you figure something else out that's cool, feel free to pass on that knowledge in the comments, and happy hacking.